All right, the next part of the lesson, we are going to write our equations in standard form by foiling them together. And then we're going to do some comparisons to see if we can figure out the relationship between our standard form and our factored form. Okay, so for number 4, when we FOIL it, we're going to take x times x, so x squared, and then x times 7 is 7x, and then 1 times x is 1x, and 1 times 7 is 7, and then we combine like terms. So we would have x squared plus 8x plus 7. Next one, same thing, we're going to FOIL. So x times x is x squared, x times 4 is 4x, 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 4 is 8. Combine like terms to get x squared plus 6x plus 8. And the last one, so again, x times x is x squared, x times 4 is 4x, negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. So combining, we would have x squared plus 2x minus 8. All right, so what do we notice about the relationship between the numbers in factored form and the numbers in standard form? So if we think about how 1 and 7 are related to these, into our standard form, well, I know that 1 times 7 is 7, and then 1 plus 7 is 8. So looking at our next set, so if we look at the 2 and 4 compared to the 6 and 8, 2 times 4 gives us 8, and 2 plus 4 is 6. And then looking at the next one, so again the negative 2 and 4, so negative 2 times 4 is negative 8, and then negative 2 plus 4 is 2. So that's our pattern that we want to notice. So the relationship between the numbers in factored form and standard form is to go from standard form, so if I had x squared plus 8x plus 7, and to go to factored form, we're looking for two numbers. Okay, so two numbers that multiply to be the last term, and, so it has to be both, and add to be the middle term. Okay. So in this pattern only happens when A is 1. So I'm going to make a little comment. So A has to be 1 for this. So whenever we're factoring, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be the last term, add to be the middle term. So the factors of 7 are 1 and 7. So when I set up my pattern here, so I would have x and x, because x times x will always give us x squared. And then I need positive 7 and positive 1, because 7 times 1 is 7, and then 7 plus 1 is 8. So that's the pattern that we need to notice. So now if we practice factoring, so starting with 40, we are looking for two numbers that multiply to be 40 and add to be 14. So if you're not really sure, you can start with a list. So if we're thinking of 40, well, I know that 1 times 40 is 40, and 2 times 20 is 40. 3 doesn't go in there. 4 times 10 gives us 40, and we could keep making this list if we need to. So once you have your list, you're just looking for the set that are going to add to be this middle term. 1 plus 40 isn't going to add to be 14. 2 plus 20 doesn't add to be 14. But our 4 plus 10 does, so that's the set that we're going to use. So we're going to have our double set of parentheses, x and x, and then we need a positive 4 and a positive 10. So that is our factored form, where two numbers multiply to be the last term, add to be the middle term. Okay, so looking at 9, so again, if we're factoring, it's going to factor like this. We'll have x and x. So we need two numbers that multiply to be positive 8, but add to be negative 6. So since they have to multiply to be positive, add to be negative, that means both of these numbers have to be negative. So again, if we get stuck, we're just going to list our factors. So we'd have -1 and -8, -2 and -4. So we would need the second set. So we're going to have a -2 and a -4, and that will add to be our -6. All right, so same thing with 10. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to be +12, add to be -7. So since we have a positive, multiply to be positive, add to be negative, again, our signs have to be negative for both of our numbers. And then we would want to choose 4 and 3. So -4, oops, X here. So -4 times -3 is +12. -4 plus -3 is -7. So that would be our factored form. Again, if you get stuck, list your factors off to the side and find the pair that works. All right, 11. So this time we need it to multiply to be a negative. So if that's the case, we have to have one positive number and one negative number. So if we're thinking about our factors of -10, we could have 1 and -10 or vice versa, 2 and -5 or vice versa, and those are our only factors. So since we want it to add to be a +3, if I'm looking at this, we'd actually want to use a -2 and a +5, and then that's going to add to be a +3. So we need 5 to be positive, 2 to be negative, and that's going to be our factored form. All right, 12. Okay, looking for the same thing, two numbers that multiply to be -5. So again, I'm going to need a positive number and a negative number to do that. And then they have to add to be 4. So the only factors of 5 are 1 and 5. So we just have to choose a set that's going to work. So it has to add to be a positive. So we're going to want to choose -1, +5. So +5, -1. And that will be our factored form. All right, so again, looking at our last one, we have two numbers that have to multiply to be a -32. So again, that means that we have to have a positive number and a negative number for that to happen. And this time it has to add to be negative. So that means we want our bigger number to be the -1. So for 32, we are going to want to use a -16 and a +2. So those numbers will multiply to be -32 and add to be -16. And that's going to finish our factor section. So again, remember, this is for factoring when A is 1. So the rule is a little bit different if our A is a different number.